Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Hello, and welcome to News from the Torah. This is Leah Aharoni. Today is the 22nd day of August, the 14th day of the Hebrew month of Elul, and this week we will read the Torah portion of Kitavo. When you come to the land of Israel, the first thing you do after planting trees and harvesting them is that you take select fruit and you bring it to the Beit HaMikdash, to the temple, and you thank God for all the goodness that He has given you by bringing the first of the first fruit to celebrate the bounty. Today we are going to have a very special show with this very special woman by the name of Orly Waba, and I'm going to introduce you to her during our first segment. She is a kindness expert, a person who helps people see the good in themselves, celebrate the good in themselves, and by doing so, celebrate the good in the world. And she has a very interesting story of how she got there. It wasn't all bright, it wasn't all cheery, there was a lot of trouble in the middle. You'll hear all about Orly after the break. But before we go and meet Orly, I'd like to talk about this very special day that is going to be happening this week. This coming Thursday is Chai Elul, the 18th day of Elul. It's the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov, and Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the Baal Shem Tov, founded the Hasidic movement, and Rabbi Shneur Zalman founded the Chabad movement. And the central point of this movement is understanding that God is present in every single detail of our life, that God designs every single moment of our life and keeps the world going every single moment. God didn't just create the world once in Genesis. He's recreating the world exactly as it should be every single second, and it's keeping an eye on us every single second. And that means that we can connect to Him every single second through what is going with us at that moment. No story, no detail, no item is too small to serve as a connection to God. So think about that. How can you connect to God with little details, little actions, little good deeds? And that will connect us to Orly's story right after the break. So stay tuned, don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back.
The return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel was prophesied in the Bible thousands of years ago and is coming true today. Shalom. Join me, Josh Wander, on Israel Unplugged. Listen in as we delve into the spiritual and physical aspects of the Jewish return to Zion. We'll discuss the biblically mandated, historic, and of course practical understandings of this incredible transition from exile to redemption. That's Israel Unplugged, every Monday on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com.
Welcome back. So today I'd like to welcome a very special guest on our show. Her name is Orly Waba. Hi Orly, how are you?
Great to be here. Thank you so much, Leah.
Thank you for joining us. So Orly is a serial entrepreneur. She is the founder of the global nonprofit called Life Vest Inside, a kindness expert, educator, best-selling author, and keynote speaker. And we will talk about her ventures in just a minute. She is also a founder of an app called Abraham's Legacy, and we will ask her all about that. And before we dive into your amazing activities, Orly, I'd like to first welcome you to the show. I'd like to ask you a little bit about your personal background. Where do you come from, your family, and what brought you to the things that you're doing today?
100%. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. So thank you so much for having me on. So just a bit about my background. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in the Sephardic Jewish community there. Lived there for 35 years of my life. I actually started off as a middle school educator. I was teaching a 7th and 8th grade Bible studies and absolutely loved it. It was 7 absolutely transformative years for me. And the concepts of, kindness, compassion, empathy, these were things I was incorporating into my classroom on a daily basis, especially talking about concepts from the Torah, from the Bible. And about 10 years ago, I can't believe I could say 10 years ago, but it's been 10 years, I decided to take a leap of faith and pursue a dream I had in my heart ever since I was a little 4-year-old kid that dreamed of changing the world and bringing people together through the power of kindness. So I left my job. It was supposed to be just a year venture to put my all into this dream. I had founded an organization called Life Best Inside. Basically, the nonprofit is geared towards inspiring and educating people of all backgrounds to a life of kindness. But the essence, the core is really all about empowering people to recognize their value, their significance, the fact that they matter, that they're unique, that we all have something to contribute into the world. Like I said, this has really been part of a much longer journey for me. Since I was a little kid that I always dreamed about wanting to bring people together, never understanding where animosity came from between people of different races, religions, ethnicities, cultures, background. Why does that animosity exist? And I very much believed in my heart that I was meant to do something to bring people together. I didn't know, how or what, but I knew my why. And I always say that if you know your why in life, the how will find its way to you. And so I started with a short film that I did for the organization called Kindness Boomerang. It was a short 5-minute music video that was all about showing how an act of kindness goes from one person to the next and then to the other, and then boomerangs back to the person that set it into motion. I happen to have had a background in film production. I went to college for film production. And this short film that I created during my summer off from teaching with my students ended up going crazy viral, reaching over 100 million people globally and starting what I've come to call the kindness revolution. I mean, it's really incredible, really absolutely amazing. And it was all based on real life experiences I've personally been through, these little moments that left an imprint on my life. And from there, of course, I started Abraham's Legacy just a few years ago, but from that short film, the organization came into being, whether it be through, and we bring this message into the world, whether it be through inspirational media like film, through education, through international events, through technology, through leadership training programs. So it's been a very, very big part of my journey. But I would say, going back into my own backstory, what brought me to these things, it started, a lot of it, a big shift in my life happened during my adolescent years when I was 15 years old. And oftentimes the biggest shifts happen to us during hardships. But they say that, when we're at our lowest, we're also at our highest potential. When we're at our lowest point, we're at our highest potential to really tap into something in ourselves that we may never have been able to tap into otherwise. Because when we're pushed against the wall, we have the ability to overcome. And sometimes we have the ability to, of course, choose from 2 different directions. In my sophomore year of high school, I went through a pretty crazy time in my life, as well as my family. We had a fire in my house, and overnight, my family lost absolutely everything.
Oh, wow.
Thank God we were okay. I mean, physically, we were okay. But, it does something to you when you're home. That place that you run to when the whole world has got you going crazy, goes up in flames. And suddenly, it sort of felt like if I wasn't here tomorrow, how would anybody know? Where would there be a sign that I was actually here? Now, I'll tell you, it wasn't just the fire that was the hardship. It was one of those years, which I know is not difficult for us to understand right now, coming off of, continuing to go through what we've been going through with COVID. But it was one of those years where everything that could go wrong went wrong. And when you thought it couldn't get worse, it got worse. And one thing after the next continued to hit my family. It was 6 years until my family lived all back under the same roof. But that first year was really the hardest. And I was always a very positive person, believing everything happens for a reason. And I remember even coming to school the next day and say, oh yeah, my house burned down. I was like putting on this, I'm going to be strong, because it does something to you when you see your parents break down. You see your parents cry. It it shifts something in you. I can't explain it. I didn't want to be a burden on them. They were going through so much, and they were trying as hard as they could to do the best they could for us. And so I hid my emotions from them. My friends didn't know what to say to me, so I hid my emotions from them, but that doesn't last for very long. And little by little, it started to eat up at me from the inside out until one night I went to bed and I just sort of didn't wake up the next day. I fell into a state of really, really dark depression. And when I say dark, I mean suicidal dark. I was in a really bad place. I was in a really bad place.
So what helped you get out of there, Oli? How did you climb back up?
It's a good question. And the truth of the matter is, you see, during that time, I was angry at the world. I was angry at myself. I was angry at God. I was angry at my family. I wasn't talking to anybody, but I was talking to God. I was screaming at him, but I was talking to him. And I always had a very close relationship with Hashem. I always had a great relationship with God. And there I was during this very, very, very difficult point in my life. I wasn't in school for several months. I didn't want to go back. I was sleeping most of the day, crying the rest of the day. After several months, I was forced to go back to school. And one not so special morning, I woke up and I was in the bathroom washing up. Okay. And I was looking at myself in the mirror, really looking at myself. And the scariest thing happened. I didn't see me. I didn't see that 4-year-old Orly that dreamed of changing the world looking back at me. And to be honest, that scared me more than anything. I had no idea how I was going to pick myself back up. I mean, I let everything go. But it was in that moment, at 15 years old, looking at myself in the mirror, that I made a promise to myself. And it's a promise that guided me to my years teaching, that guided me to the work I did with Life Essence Inside, that guided me to the work I'm doing with Abraham's Legacy. And it honestly is what wakes me up every morning. It was a promise to be there for people the way I wished somebody would have been there for me. And to see people the way I just wish somebody would have seen me. Because really, at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for. What got me through, though, the thing that got me through was my connection with Hashem, was my connection with God. You see, in the morning when we wake up, there's a line that we say in prayer. Which basically translates, we're thanking God for giving us back our soul, because they say that when we're asleep, it's like we're 60th dead. And so when we wake up, it's like God is giving us back our soul. And so we're thanking him for giving us back our soul. But there are these last 2 words of this line that I said that many people forget. And those words are Rabbah emunatecha. Your great faith in me. Sounds strange. You know, we should say our great faith in you. But what is it saying? You see, every morning when we wake up, every morning when we take that big, deep breath in, it's as though God is saying, come to all the angels. He's saying, come, 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 come. Look at what Orly is going to do today. Look at what Leah is going to do today. That no matter how many mistakes we made yesterday and the day before and the day before that, God, the King of the universe, is betting on us. So maybe other people aren't betting on us. But if the King of the universe is betting on us, shouldn't we bet on ourselves?
Absolutely. It's something I say to my friends and to people who learn with me all the time. God is keeping you on his payroll for another day. He knows what he's doing.
And honestly, that's what got me through, because God saw me at my lowest point, and he still believed in me. He still bet on me. And so it was time for me to bet on myself. I mean, it took a couple of years for me to get out of this hardship. But when I did, and it started really with a love of self, because truly, in order to make an impact in the world, it starts with ourselves. You know, it says, to love others like you love yourself. Loving others is easy, but loving ourselves is hard. Over those next couple of years of high school, I was sort of walking alone. But you know what? It gave me a chance to do something that we very often don't get a chance to do. It gave me a chance to fall in love with me for me. And as a result, I found my voice. I was a super shy kid. I always had these feelings and these thoughts in my heart, but I had no ability to express them. And only once it got to my senior year of high school that I finally find my voice and finally was able to share. I remember being on a seminar, the kids in my grade, and the teacher was talking about obstacles. And I did something I never did before. I raised my hand. I'm telling you, I was so shy. I would never raise my hand in class. And the crazy thing is that these kids that I used to be so super intimidated from, were listening to me and then asking me for advice. And what I found was that the more I gave, the more I healed. And the more I gave, the more I healed. And I became obsessed and in love with this concept and this idea of giving.
So let's hear more about that. 1 second. We have to take a break now. But after the break, we'd love to hear more about this idea of giving, how you've translated that experience into a life of giving. So stay with us, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Hi, I'm Steve Miller.
And I'm Matt Zucker.
Join us for Lighten Up, where we take a look at the week's current events in Israel and from around the Jewish world through a humorous lens.
If you've been paying attention during these crazy times, you know that it's a challenge to parody life anymore. But join Steve and I as we give it the old college try. Not only is being happy an obligation, but life is just too short to take it all so seriously.
So join me, Steve Miller.
And me, Matt Zucker.
For Lighten Up every Monday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Israel, only on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com.
Welcome back. So we are on this really great show with Orly Waba. And in the first segment, Orly was telling us all about the hardships she went through as a teen and a near suicidal experience she had when she was 15, when she looked in the mirror and she could not see that happy, optimistic 4-year-old that she remembered herself to be. And connecting to that experience really motivated her to be the person who shows kindness, who is there for other people, like she wish somebody would be for her. And Orly, you know what made me, your comment made me think about something. This week is the birthday of the two great founders of the Hasidic movement, of the Baal Shem Tov and the Baal Tanya, the founder of the Chabad movement. Their birthdays are on the same day, on Chai Elul, the 18th day of Elul, which is this coming Thursday. And the guiding principle of the Hasidic movement is that if you know how much you love your fellow Jew, then you can know how much you love God. You cannot love God more than you love your fellow Jew. And really being there for the other person is a very central principle of the Hasidic movement. It is said by the Baal Shem Tov that a person can come into the world for 70 or 80 years just to do one favor for one person.
Love it.
So we never know.
I have to tell you, it's so true, because if you think about it, there is a spark, right? There's a nitzotz, there's a spark of God in every person. If we only recognize that, first of all, number one, we have to first recognize that that spark exists in us. If we truly recognize that, and we can love ourselves in spite of our flaws, because we all have flaws, then it's very easy to love others. The key to loving others is truly to love ourselves, because if we can love ourselves with our flaws, we now have the ability to embrace others for who they are with their flaws as well. Recognizing, again, like I said, it makes sense, because if you recognize that there is a spark of God in each person and you embrace those people, that's how we embrace God. It's such a critical thing. This is what we're here for. This is what we're here for in this world, to be able to embrace others, to love others, to see others, to validate others, And
so tell us how
sort of what I came.
Right. Yeah. So tell us how you do that with your organization. Tell us about Life Vest Inside and Abraham's Legacy. How do these two organizations, how did you come to found to establish them? And what do you do? How do you bring this message to other people?
So with Life Vest Inside, like I said, the message, right, is to spread kindness, to inspire people, to empower them to recognize that who they are matters. This is the key. Because when the person recognizes that they matter, they can now recognize that others matter, and suddenly that their choices matter. Because if you understand that you matter, the choices that you make matter. meaning the choice to either to look at someone and smile at them or to give them a look that's going to make them feel like garbage. That's your choice. And the choices that we make, they don't only dictate the lives that we lead, but they dictate the lives of all those who choose to follow us. Life Vest Inside really stemmed from my years teaching Torah, teaching Bible studies, because the basis of it is chesed. The basis of it is kindness. And so throughout my years teaching, the concepts of kindness and compassion, empathy, these were things that I was implementing into my classroom on a daily basis. And I was dreaming of what I was going to do with my students, of how I'm going to be able to make this impact. It was actually my students that gave me the courage to take that leap of faith, to put my all, to say, what if I put my all into this dream, to this dream of bringing an ahavat chesed, a loving kindness into the world, to shake the foundations of this world with a love like it's never seen. That was really my goal. It was really my goal. And I took this year off from teaching. It was going to be just 1 year to see what would happen if I put my all, and I created this film. And that was sort of the first, step with doing this. The concept of Life Vest Inside. People always ask me, Life Vest Inside, what is it? What it has to do with kindness? But the concept of Life Vest Inside is that our life vest, our ability to stay afloat in this world that's inside of us, it's through our ability to give to others and their ability to give to us that we keep each other afloat. Because we can't prevent the obstacles and the hardships and the mishaps from coming our way. They're going to come. But what do we have the ability to do? We have the ability to throw somebody a life vest, a lifeline of kindness, that even though they're surrounded by their troubles, they're surrounded by these raging waters, the difference between life and death is something as small as a life vest.
Yes, and sometimes
afloat.
Yes,
sometimes it's going to be okay.
Right. Sometimes these acts are actually very small and very easy to do. There's a story that I sometimes share, an experience I once had when I went to the Kotel and I saw a girl, must have been 17, 18 years old. And just by her face, I knew exactly which family she belongs to because she looks exactly like her parents. And she was, the way she was praying, which is so inspirational. And she was helping people around her, just a very special girl. So I came over to her and I said, you belong to such and such family, right? She said, yeah. I said, yeah, well, I know your parents. So then I came home and I thought, I'll pick up the phone. I haven't spoken to her mother in like 10 years, but I'll pick up the phone and I'll tell her mom that I saw her daughter at the Kotel. So I call her and say, hi, how you doing? And, I saw her at the Kotel and just wanted to tell her she prayed. So it's such a beautiful, inspirational way. And she was so helpful to everybody around her. And her mother started to cry. I'm telling you, it was a 30-second phone call. And then her mother said, you don't understand what you did. And I don't know what I did because she didn't share the rest of the story. She just hung up the phone crying. But it was a 30-second phone call that apparently did something to this woman. And it is so easy. And usually we don't do that because we are afraid of being vulnerable. We're afraid of what people think.
Exactly.
Right. So
but
do you have a story?
Things that we do that make the biggest difference. The small little things that we do, we don't realize what they do for others. And even if we're not doing so, even if we're just choosing, for example, she was choosing to pray with all of this kavanah, right? Without her knowing it, she's inspiring people around her because the actions that we take in our day truly, truly make a big, big difference. I can tell you just a story from myself of an act of kindness that somebody did for me, a complete stranger, okay? And this actually connects very much to Abraham's legacy, and I'll explain how. Abraham's legacy, I created this app in memory of my grandfather, Alav Shalom. And when he was in the hospital and he was sick and we were, it was any day that we were losing him, it was a very, very difficult time for my family. Very difficult. I mean, my grandpa was like the captain of our family. He's held everybody together. And as I was on my way to the hospital, I couldn't bear it. I could not bear it. So many other things were going wrong in my life. And then my grandpa is in the hospital and I couldn't bring myself to go into the hospital. And I ended up just walking around the city, just aimlessly and feeling beyond crushed. And I found myself sitting at a bus stop. And I'm sitting at this bus stop and just staring out into space. And I see this van, like this, car that's coming. And he's washing down each of the bus stops, okay? And he comes now to this bus stop. And he sees me and he sees something clearly that I'm hurt, I'm upset, something's wrong. And he asks me, Miss, are you okay? Now, you know what happens when somebody asks you, are you okay? You're not okay. The waterworks come. I started just hysterical crying. And he sat by my side and he said, I don't know what might be going on, but I just want you to know, he said, I remember my grandmother always used to tell me, this too shall pass. And we started talking. He was talking to me for a few minutes. I couldn't speak back. I was a mess. And he said, do me a favor. Just please don't leave. Just stand here to the side. I'm just going to clean down the bus stop. I want to speak to you. So I stand to the side, stand back a little bit. And as he's cleaning the bus stop, I notice a woman walking by with her grocery bags. And it looked like she had a rough day. Like you could see on her face, she had a tough day. And as she's walking by this gentleman, he says a few words to her. I couldn't make it out because I was standing from a distance. But what I noticed her expression on her face shift after she walked by him. And she was smiling. And in that moment, I realized this man isn't just somebody washing bus stops. This man is spreading kindness and positivity in the world just by who he is. Doesn't matter what our job title is in this world, but it's by the simple things we do. And afterwards, he came up to me and he said a few more very encouraging words. And he wrote his number on a paper. His name was Maximilian. I'll never forget it. And he gave me a big hug. He said to me, I know you don't know me, but if you ever need somebody to speak to, you have my number. I'll never forget this. A small act that a stranger did just in the middle of nowhere and the impression that it had on me. This is the power of kindness in this world. We never know how it's going to touch somebody and how it's going to lift their spirits.
It's so interesting. You know, what I'm finding symbolic in the story is that he is the person basically on a car full of water. And water is chesed, right? In our tradition,
Yes.
Water is chesed. And we all have this hose of chesed that we hold in our hands. And I think sometimes we're not courageous enough to turn the hose and spread it around. Because we all have it. We'll all have it in our hands. You know, it's very easy to go up and, get a cup of water, just open the faucet. We all have that faucet of beautiful words of encouragement. And, people don't really need much. They don't need you to psychoanalyze them or to tell them words of wisdom. They just need somebody to be there for them and to see them.
Exactly. To see them. It's exactly that.
Amazing. Okay, so after the break, we are going to talk about Abraham's legacy, and we're also going to talk about an amazing project that you are managing with a few other women called #MyTihilim Time Jewish Women's Virtual Festival. It's going on for 2 months around the Jewish holidays, and we will talk all about that after the break, Orly. So you stay put, and you listeners, please stay put. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after these messages.
Are you tired of political correctness and the fear that you might offend someone?
I'm not afraid to offend you.
Wow, look who's talking tough.
One has to be tough to keep sane today.
Hi, I'm Alan Skorsky.
And I'm Bayla Seabrow.
And join us every Wednesday for The Definitive Wrap as we interview the most sought-after guests and expose progressive trends that masquerade as enlightenment but actually destroy our freedoms.
We are the No Woke Zone, so buckle up to this exciting show.
Buckling up, but I'm driving.
Sure, you can drive, but I'm the navigator.
Tune in for the No Nonsense, The Definitive Wrap Show, every Wednesday on Israel News Talk Radio.
Okay, we are back with Orly Waba for the last segment of this show. And before the break, Orly started telling us about an app that she started in memory of her grandfather. It's called Abraham's Legacy. So Orly, what's with the app? What does this app do?
Okay, so the app itself gives people the ability to complete the book of Tihilim, the book of Psalms, thousands of times a day, potentially, in splits of a second, in real time with people from around the world. And it's in Hebrew, English, Spanish, French, for iOS and Android. It's a completely free app in memory of my grandfather, who's also, his name is Avraham. But as we know, why is it called Abraham's legacy? A lot of people ask me the question and say, Orly, David HaMelech is the one that wrote the Tihilim, most of Tihilim. Why Avraham? I said, well, there's two reasons. Of course, because it's in memory of my grandfather, it's called Abraham's legacy, and I'll explain to you why specifically it's in his memory. But in addition, Avraham Avinu is the father of all the religions, yes? And we also know Avraham is the one that brought the oneness of God into the world. Now, it seems like such a simple thing to think about. Yeah, of course, there's one God. But he was the first one. He's a pioneer to bring the oneness of God, the ability to connect, the ability to have a dialogue, to understand this concept of having a dialogue with Hashem into the world. And we also know that all three religions actually find Tihilim. Tihilim is something of significance to them. But now, why do this in memory of my grandfather? Well, several years ago, when my grandfather fell on Pesach and he broke his hip. Now, he had many other issues. He had heart issues at an older age. When a person breaks their hip and they also have other issues, it leads to many other complications. And we were going to lose him there and then. It was a very, very, very scary time. And so the first thing that we did is we turned to prayer, to Tihilim, this amazing, amazing prayer that has the ability to bring a tremendous amount of yeshuot, of salvation. And we took the book and we broke it amongst his kids and grandkids, that all of us would read specific pisukim, specific chapters every day to complete the book every single day. And I was in charge of this. I would send messages out, but I was worried. What if people forgot to read their chapters? Who wants to be the guy that's going to say, oh, I forgot to read for grandpa today? And so I was worried about it. And so I decided to take on myself, quietly, to finish the book, or the full book in one day. And I did. The next day came and I did it again.
That's a 2-hour undertaking every single day. Somebody was done. It's a little bit 2-hour undertaking.
Yeah. And I was doing this for months, reading the full book every day for months. The miracles that I saw during this time were beyond incredible. And in addition to that, I had a dream about this app, Abraham's Legacy, within 2 weeks of reading the book every day.
So
and
what
I
is
woke up,
the...
I only told it.
Okay, go ahead.
What is it? And I drew it out, and I had no idea I was going to put it into fruition, but thank God through crazy miracles, which we won't have the time to get into today, I was able to bring it into fruition. What's the concept of the app? Basically, today's time when people have to pray for a loved one, and of course, when someone's life is in the balance, every second counts. Many people today they create WhatsApp groups, right? They create a WhatsApp group, they share it, only 250 people in the group, and people come on and they write the consecutive number. The person writes 1, the next guy writes 2, then they have to go into another Tihilim app, or they have to take a book and they have to read it. Through this app makes it very easy. There are different kinds of features. Number one, you come into the app and there's a start reading button. You click it and the app will generate for you the next chapter in the global count. So there are 150 chapters in the book of Tihilim, in the book of Psalms. So let's say the global count is up to chapter 50 and you click, you get 51. The next guy clicks, he gets 52. If 100,000 people click at the same time, it distributes chapters and into future books for them and keeps track to know that they're reading it. And when they complete it, you can see in real time the numbers go up. And you could see in real time how many people are reading, how many countries are reading, books completed, chapters read. We had an event, I'll never forget this. We had an event about a year ago, and we showed the video of the app. In seconds, 750 people were reading in real time from 22 countries. And in minutes, 22 books of Tihilim were completed. Oh, crazy power. Not only that, the full app, like I said, is in 4 languages, and the Tihilim is in 4 languages, transliterated, all different languages. Plus, you have the ability to create prayer circles. Let's say you want to create a circle for a family member or a friend. You can create it, you can share it. It's unlimited amount of people that can join your circle, and it works the same. It has a counter that you just click to read whenever you want, and it goes up in terms of how many books have been completed. To date, we have over 500,000 chapters that have been read through the app. And in the circles, you can chat with the members of your circle, update them on how the person is doing and how they're feeling. You have a bio about the person. There's a leaderboard to show you who's read the most daily and weekly. You could even sponsor a chapter in memory of a loved one or in honor of a loved one, where their name will appear on everybody that has the app, will appear on a chapter, so that hundreds of books are going to be completed in that person's name just within a week, which is really incredible.
And it's completely free. It's important today. The app is completely free, right?
It's completely free. It's completely free. Like I said, this is a Lashem Shemayim project in memory of my grandfather. It's called Abraham's Legacy. And Bezrat Hashem looking to add on, in addition to it, short form lessons on every chapter to help you elevate your understanding of Tihilim and help bring it into your life. Show how it's connected to your own personal life. Because Tihilim is like a dialogue with Hashem.
I'm actually running a retreat for women this coming week from Tuesday through Thursday. And it's a small group retreat in Meron to help women get ready for Rosh Hashanah. Naomi, who is your partner in this program, reached out to me and asked me to participate on one of the days to give a short lecture on Tihilim just before Yom Kippur. So I'd love to ask you, what is My Tihilim Time? What is this festival? How does it work? Who is it for? And why people should join?
So amazing. So basically, this festival is geared towards inspiring and empowering Jewish women from around the globe to connect to the power of Tihilim, to connect to Hashem and to themselves, and to learn how to apply Tihilim to their busy lives. And the event is going to unite women from around the world and honors, also we're going to be honoring women's circles and inspirational women who are going above and beyond to impact women on a daily basis and infuse a sense of achdut, of unity, and excitement for the Geulah, for the redemption. And so every single night, we're having a different woman speaker. The program every night is 35 minutes long. There's going to be 20 minutes of a speaker talking about another aspect of Tihilim, followed by 7 minutes of reading Tihilim through the Abraham's Legacy app in unison. Meaning, at the end of the talk, we have the ability to finish a book in unison in just a few minutes. And then after the Tihilim read, we're also going to be doing a raffle. For those speakers that are authors, we're going to be raffling off their book. And each day, we're going to be sending out an email with the speaker's short form story of how Tihilim, what Tihilim means to them. In addition, we're encouraging people to share their My Tihilim Time story. What does that mean? Basically, your Tihilim inspired story. What does Tihilim mean to you? Maybe it's a favorite parak, a favorite chapter, a favorite verse. What does it mean to you? Or do you have a story of how it's inspired or touched your life? And so people will be able to share on social media or via our website by going to abrahamslegacy.com/sign up. There you'll be able to register for the event. And when you register, you'll be able to be entered in to win the raffle prizes. In addition, you'll get the reminders of each of the women speakers. There's a list of the schedule, the agenda on the website. You'll be able to see the My Tihilim Time stories that people are submitting, and you could submit your own there or through your own social media by using the social media hashtag My Tihilim Time and tagging Abraham's Legacy, and you'll have an opportunity to win also the raffle prizes.
When is it starting?
Starting August 22nd. Every night, every day, it's at 8:30 p.m. Israel time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you'll be able to be involved. And at the end of this amazing 29 incredible speakers, we're going to be culminating in a physical event that will be also live streamed here in Jerusalem in conjunction with the Shabbat Project, where we'll be featuring incredible women musicians that are going to be singing songs of Tihilim. And we'll also have a global Tihilim read there through the Abraham's Legacy app with many more activities to bring prayer into our lives.
So I'm going to put you on the spot, Rolly, and ask you about your Tihilim story.
So my Tihilim story, I mean, the truth of the matter is the one I shared about my grandfather, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a deeper view of it. One night, they called us to the hospital and they said, "You have to come now. That's it." So we all ran over. And of course, I grabbed my Tihilim book and I stood by his bedside and I was reading Tihilim with every fiber of my being. And I get to the pasuk, Lo amut ki echyeh va'asaper ma'aseya. And which means Lo amut. And in my mind, I'm thinking, please God, don't let him die. Ki echyeh, please let him live. Va'asaper ma'aseya. And I promise you, I will continue to speak of your glory and the power of tefillah, the power of Tihilim. And I said this line maybe 100 times. I didn't let go of it. Thank God he made it through the night, and we had him for several more months. And when he passed, we found his Tihilim bag, and I opened his Tihilim bag, and in his Tihilim bag there was a book of Tihilim, and in this book of Tihilim there was a bookmark, and I opened it up to the bookmark, and on what pasuk is the bookmark?
The same one.
Lo amut ki ahyeh v'asaper ma'aseyah. And I realized what God was saying to me. Orly, lo amut, he didn't die. He's still living. His neshama, his spirit, his soul is still living. Now it's up to you, Orly, to share the story of the power of Tihilim, to share the story of the power of prayer. And it was in that moment that I realized I need to bring this vision I had in my dream of Abraham's legacy, of this Tihilim app. I must bring it into fruition.
Wow, and you certainly
miracles
did.
Upon miracles, Hashem allowed me to do it.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing the story, Orly, sharing the information about the app and the festival. And I'm encouraging all of our listeners to join it. Have a terrific week, and same for everybody here. And we'll see you next week on next week's show. Bye-bye now.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
If you love Israel News Talk Radio, then you'll love our Facebook page. We keep you up to date on what's happening in Israel, plus little surprise treasures that we don't share on the radio. Go now to follow us on Facebook. Just look for the Israel News Talk Radio Facebook page, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us by clicking on the like button. We post great stuff there that you'll want to share. Israel News Talk Radio on Facebook and Israel News Radio on Twitter.
If you're hearing this message, everyone else can too. Advertise with Israel News Talk Radio and get your message out to people. We'll build a personalized package for you. Contact advertising at israelnewstalkradio.com.
Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Hey, this is Jake in Anchorage, Alaska, and I love listening to all the super interesting interviews and up-to-date information on what's happening in Israel.
Hello, this is Anna King, originally from London, now living in Israel. And what can I say? Israel News Talk Radio is my cup of tea.
My name is Bhaskar. I'm from India, and I love listening because you get to know the truth and wonderful voices from this lovely country.
Mom! Okay, wait a minute. Hi, this is Chava Dax, and I'm calling from the rolling hills of Malaya Dumim, just north of Jerusalem. I always listen to Israel News Talk Radio to get all the latest news and commentary and to keep me up to date every day.
This is Sarah Dax from Malaya Dumim, and I'm 12. I wish Israel News Talk Radio was boring so my mom wouldn't listen to it all the time. Mom!
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.